So this video is the second part to the first video. The first video ended with reading reasons why strength of link outweighs, and now we're going to start with responses to that argument, courtesy of Kirk. Yeah.
It's going to go line by line. The way is more objective. However, when there's no impact to objectivity or subjectivity or even judge intervention. Seriously, that's an elementary mistake that you made. You did not provide an impact to why judge intervention matters. Do not give him new links in the next speech, because my strategy in this speech was based on concessions from his last speech. Second is subjective. Second is still subjective. Even if this is dropped, it still may not have 100% chance of link if the impact is not probable, which is that judge is still going to be interventionist. And 3, turn, it's going to be more subjective when there's significant clash on the issue, because it's hard to evaluate if this argument has more strength of link on this argument. You're simply evaluating it in terms of dropping arguments. If no argument dropped, then it's really hard to evaluate strength of link. Your basic point that it determines the size of the impact. However, this means that you still have to determine strength of the impact, because strength of link times strength of the impact equals impact, which means that there has to be some external criteria to see. So point is maximize the clash. I'll turn this argument. Clearly, it's not maximizing the clash in this instance, because you want to go for the easy way out with when there's no clash on the argument. When there's no clash on the argument, that always, because it's in-round abuse. In-round abuse always out-of-round abuse, because even if this practice may be good out-of-round, we're focusing on this specific round. That's key to verifiability. You shouldn't find a fee for something that you can't verify.
Okay, I think that there's also an argument to be made against maximizing clash. That strength of link actually minimizes clash because it lets debaters not do impact weighing and just get away with higher level of superficial strength of link weighing.
Okay, yeah.
So it minimizes impact weighing and clash on the impact weighing. I also think that the way you're dealing with the number 2 argument, though it's correct in theory, is not articulated very well. You say that this means you still have to determine strength of impact and you need an external criteria to do that. That is true, but I think the other thing you need to do is that you need to point out that the size of link is not the only determinant into the size of the impact, right? The size of the impact exists independent of the size of the link. The size of the link just explains how much of the impact will be accessed, i.e. we can do extinction versus crime weighing in terms of the impact absent links, right? And then once you introduce the size of the link, then it also influences the question of which one outweighs. So in a vacuum, we can say that in terms of size of impact, extinction outweighs crime, obviously, right? But then it could be the case in that particular round that the extinction link is only 0.001%, whereas the crime link is like 100%. And so presumably the smaller impact there could outweigh. So that's the first thing you need to point out, is that strength of impact weighing exists independent of size of link weighing. And then the second thing you need to point out is that the size of link is more complex than just strength of link. The size of link also depends on the probability of the link, right? It depends on things like whether or not there's an empirical denial. Or like how verifiable the link is. Things like that, right? It's sort of impossible to get a comprehensive list of all the things that size of link depends on, but those are the most popular.
Sure.
I think that the way you handled the objectivity claim was pretty good.
You didn't make it impact your intervention, right? I'm pretty sure you. Yeah.
No, there isn't. But I think that the way the next speech would handle it would be to make a lot of fun of you.
Yeah.
To be like, like, I presumed I didn't need to inform you the sky was blue before this debate round because some things are obvious. Like, if you can't piece together why intervention's a bad thing, it's probably a reason you should not be winning this debate round.
Fair enough.
Right? Like, I don't know. Obviously, that was a mistake. The argument is not fully impacted. But there's some things that don't need to be as fully impacted, right? Like, if you're winning, that there's a huge skew in reciprocity, and you're not...
To fairness.
Right, like... Yeah, exactly. You didn't give an explicit sentence saying reciprocity key to fairness. People don't really take that argument very seriously, right? And this is, I think, a place where policy debate has significantly advanced past LD debate on the theory debate, is that a lot of them just take the internal links to be granted now. And the only time the internal link conversation is relevant is when the one side brings it up to talk about. So you presume that the internal link is there absent a contestation.
Yeah, that's opposite in LD.
It's opposite in LD. Yeah. And that's just an example of how our activity is more primitive, and over time we're going to evolve and catch up. Cool?
Yeah.
Okay. So shall we switch sides?
Yeah, give me a second. You can end the recording.
No, we'll just continue the recording.
You just type that up, and then, or was it like written up pre-written doc?
What?
The arguments.
We prepared it for TOC this year. Okay, so now we're going to read reasons why strength of link does not outweigh. Ready? I know I'm behind on the strength of link question on this particular impact, but that's not a reason you should just take the easy way out and vote me down. First is that this encourages blippy debates where debaters can blow up any drop, which means that also the neg will always be ahead because the 7, 4, 6, 3 times that makes AF drops inevitable. Second is you presume a dropped argument is a true argument, but that's a nonsensical model of debate, i.e. I can concede that the sky is green, but that doesn't actually make it green. Use some sort of internal bullshit check here. Third, strength of link increases judge intervention because the judge has to decide how strong the ink is on the flow, which neither debater controls, ultimately leading to more interventionist decisions, which is clearly a bad thing because it means that you're not decide winning the round based on the merits of the arguments, but rather based on what your judge thought. This means evaluate strength of impact, the size of the impact, all in conjunction with strength of link. Don't just evaluate strength of link. Okay, take some prep time.
What's the warrant for C?
The warrant for C was that the judge has to decide how strong the ink is on the flow, which neither debater controls. Like, I don't control Paris's evaluation of how strong the ink was, right? Like, Paris might be really, really persuaded by an empirical denial and an alt cause, but somebody else may be not persuaded at all by it.
Okay.
Make sense? Okay. Okay, so what's the order?
Line by line.
Just top down.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I'm gonna try to practice not referencing the arguments.
Just off your one.
Yeah.
A point is this, B point is this.
Okay, it's a point of one turn that forces debaters to engage arguments. If you evaluate strength of link, then debaters will be incentivized not to drop arguments. If you're dropping arguments, I cure for a second. Naked is your ones that affirmative will have inevitable drops. This is empirically denied people. A lot of affirmatives have sufficiently answered arguments. If you're not able to cover arguments, that's your affirmative. Being affirmatives are that you have to be better at. It's not that it's part of their visa point. On your visa point one, there's no impact. There's no impact to this in terms of education or fairness. Second, this is not obviously not as bad as your example where we say sky is green. If you're dropping our argument, presumably it has some truth value to the argument. And three, the strength of link determines the size of the impact argument because strength of link times the strength of the impact is equal to the size of the impact, which means that I still control the size of the impact. Your C point on your C point one this doesn't apply in this case because it's drug, which means that it involves no drug intervention. Second turn, strength of link is the only objective measure. It's arguments such as empirical denials or probability may appeal to some judges but not others, which means that we have to use strength of link weighting because it can objectively evaluate how much ink there is on the flow, as opposed to other arguments. That was 110.
Okay, so I think both of those speeches, first off, should be able to be given faster. You need to get more comfortable with making only one response, i.e. your best argument against each of their arguments, right? And so in some cases, you won't be able to put 2 or 3 arguments against everything.
Oh, I didn't know that I was in a time constraint.
No, that's totally fine. I didn't tell you you were in a time constraint. But the point is that for the purposes of redoing this, we should have a version where you have a fleshed out version and a version where you're only making one argument against each.
Okay.
So you should have 2 versions of every speech. Okay. So in terms of the line by line, I didn't catch your arguments after the number 1 on the second response I'm making.
Yeah, sure.
What were they?
Seconds that obviously not as bad as your example. We won't argue that the sky is green. If you drive our argument, presumably.
So number 1 then was no impact in terms of education
Yeah.
or fairness. Okay. What's the third?
Third is just reiteration of your strength of link determines the strength of impact. Strength of link times strength of impact equals size of impact. Which means that this, I guess, is irrelevant. I didn't do the impact work, but I guess that would.
Okay. I think that those responses are fine then. You probably want to improve the judge intervention argument. I think you can really expand upon the doesn't apply in this case because it's dropped arguments. Or you can say I only advocate for strength of link in terms of dropped arguments and things like that. I think also you should obviously make the argument. I think the second argument you're making is not very good. It feeds into the argument that they're making. Like the second argument doesn't get you anything. It just proves what they're saying.
Oh, really? I thought it was a different thing because like things such as empirical denials or probability are separate. I thought they meant as like separate evaluation mechanisms independent of strength of link. Because that's what you said before, right? Because
Right, but now I'm talking about it in terms of the context of. Remember the argument we were talking about earlier was that I remember what you were talking about, but what I'm saying is that when judges decide strength of link, and they're looking at a link that has an empirical denial and an alt cause versus a link that just has an alt cause plus an alt solvency, some judges are going to be inherently more persuaded. It's going to be like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was misconception on their part.
Yeah. I think the better argument here should be that the way that judges do appraisal of impacts, i.e., the way the judges decide which impact is what is most important in terms of magnitude, is interventionist process. That some judges are just like inherently more appealed by.
No way to weigh between those two arguments, though.
Right, and so worst case scenario for you, it's just not unique.
Sure. Okay.
Right, best case scenario for you, they mishandle the judge intervention argument and you come out ahead. And worst case scenario is neither of you get access.
Sure.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so basically the bottom line is some judges are more persuaded by extinction impacts because of scale, and some judges are more persuaded by small scale impacts because of like probability. And you can make an argument that this is compounded by the fact that very rarely do debaters do meta level weighing.
What do you mean by level?
Meta level weighing between probability and magnitude.
Oh, I thought a lot of actually now I think about it, yeah, not many.
Or like even more meta level weighing between scale and scope.
Sure.
And scale and time frame.
Sure, yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. What do you do a lecture on like time frame weighing or like something?
Yeah, we could have a complete session on meta weighing between standards. That is an imprecise art, but we can do some drills to help give you some comfort with it. Okay, are you good on strength of link for now?
Yeah.
Okay.